that's AEW coming off of Big Business in Boston. First, I want to talk to you, Brandon, because they've done this now twice. Do you like the idea that we know who's coming out, so they just get right to it to start the show, as we saw this week with Mercedes Mone kicking things off similar to how CM Punk did in Chicago for his debut?
I like it. I absolutely love it. I think it's awesome. I think it's different because it's like, a lot of times you're like, okay, or the rumor is that somebody's going to be available at that they're going to be there at that night. And you're just kind of like, okay, it's probably going to be the main event or something. Like in that women's match that was with Riho and Willow Nightingale, you're like, okay, maybe she's going to get involved there. But it's like, nah, we're going to kick the show off. I think they did it the right way. I like her music because it really gets the crowd involved with the whole CEO, repeating that a few times. Like, she looks great. I mean, she looks like she's ready to get back in that ring and, do some business with AEW. Now, I do have to ask you really quick. I don't know if you saw, there's different videos that I've seen circulating the social media realm. She does want to go to WWE at some point. Like, how does that make you feel that she's already in AEW, but she's already talking about going to WWE someday again?
Well, I just feel that no one wants to close that door. I think that's always a positive. I think, as much as AEW exists, I feel like AEW is a good place for someone to finish out their career if they've never been to WWE or they're just not going to be a big deal in WWE. But if someone like Sasha Banks, who made her name in WWE, it just seems like a foregone that everyone wants to have like a WrestleMania match or WrestleMania moment to end their career. AEW is a big place, but it isn't, I guess, what you're familiar with. What is the main stage? I think like maybe the Okadas of the world who've only been in New Japan can maybe live without ever going to WWE. But I feel like with Sasha Banks, I mean, it's a positive. I think it's a positive that, these people who try to shut the door and to try to make it out like things are foregone conclusions, and they're not, right? Ultimate Warrior made his way back to WWE. Bret Hart made his way back to WWE. I hate this whole thing where people try to act tough and try to act like, well, I never need to go there. I don't need that place, because then they look foolish. They look like CM Punk, right? And I don't care. CM Punk's great. I'm glad he's back in WWE, but he looks foolish. He looks foolish in some of that stuff. So it's just better to guard yourself and to be smart and say, listen, I'm not going to be over here and say never about anything. So I like that aspect. I will ask you about her coming out first and just the idea in general about AEW promoting these shows without saying who they are. Do you think AEW, when it comes to CM Punk or when it comes to Mercedes Mone, should just say, hey, this is when she makes her debut? Because it's like not even a secret. Like you say, some of these rumors, it's not even rumor, right? It's really a bait and switch if CM Punk didn't come out at the United Center for that, AEW show where he debuted. And it's really a bait and switch if Sasha Banks and Mercedes Mone didn't come out. So do you think that they should just play this game where where it's like they give it away, but at the same time don't give it away? Or should they just give it away? Because technically they gave it away, right? Here's the thing. They didn't announce Sasha Banks was coming out. They didn't announce Mercedes Mone was coming out. But if they didn't have her come out, I think that's wrong. That's bad business. So when you are doing what you're doing, you're like, I'm not going to say you're getting Christmas gifts, kids. I'm not going to say we're going to set up this tree and we're going to set up these stockings to essentially put gifts in them. But I'm just going to say you probably want to be here Christmas morning, right? Like, it's like, come on now, right? If you don't have gifts, I mean, that's ridiculous. And then if, so what are we doing here? You might as well, I think, just kind of advertise that they're going to make their debut. What do you think about all this?
I actually don't mind the approach. I mean, I know they're critical. I mean, like a lot of folks like the Eric Bischoffs of the world who I admire. I think he does a lot. I think he says a lot of great things that a lot of people are afraid to say. So like, I know like the Eric Bischoffs of the world they might be critical of what Tony Khan has done in the past and different things he's doing to this day. But I feel like in this case, I feel like Tony Khan is doing it, and AEW as a whole are doing it right. I like it this way because they all know the rumors, the innuendos, like the foregone conclusions, as you kind of alluded to, that they are, that a particular wrestler or personality is showing up on the show. I like it because then, you know what? they just get it out of the way right when the show starts. It's just, all right, there's the music. We're just gonna go and you know what? She showed up. I don't have a problem with it. I think it's better that way than doing it in a spot where WWE would be predictable. Where say they had a women's match, for example, say it was Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley at this point, and something's going on, and then maybe Rhea's attacked Becky Lynch from behind, and then some other people came in and like we're trying to we're helping Rhea. Maybe she had her new version of the Judgment Day, and then you hear Sasha Banks music now. Obviously now Mercedes Mone and AEW. Then they come out. Like the predictability there is like, all right, when someone's showing up, it's probably going to be now. So I like it that they're doing it right out front. They're like, you know what? We're not going to say anything. We're not going to advertise it. It's just going to start the show.
They didn't advertise it, but they advertise it enough. I guess that's my thing. If they're not going to advertise it, great. But they are advertising it. You're telling me that they were going to draw that crowd based on, we're just going to, they advertise it. AEW Big Business, right? A boss, BOSSTON, Boston, right?
It's subtle.
Money signs,
dude. It's
not even subtle.
No, I think it is. I think it's subtle enough where they don't have to. They can say it without saying it, and they can. And here's the thing that I will give Tony Khan and AEW credit for is they give the audience, the wrestling, the internet wrestling community, our people like ourselves, a lot of credit and think, hey, these are some pretty smart people. They know what's going on in the business. All I have to say is I could put boss and then Boston and they could in Big Business and be like, who's from Boston? Oh, Sasha Banks. They could put all these things together. I think it's cool that way.
One of the biggest crowds that AEW has gotten in an arena was at the United Center for a 1-hour Rampage taping. Okay? CM Punk was coming out. Like that was they weren't getting 20,000 at the United Center.
No,
right?
I
for
get
a Rampage taping, right? So when you say subtle, like it's to the point that like they're giving it away, but they're not giving it away. They're essentially, we knew he's coming out. If he wasn't coming out, boy, that'd be something.
But I think their approach to it, like I said, I'll give Tony Khan and AEW credit for that because I like the way that they start off a show where they start playing the music, and I still remember the CM Punk debut where you hear like the drums, and it's like you hear the crowd going CM Punk just along with the beat, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're getting real now, baby. This is gonna be fun. So I like that kind of stuff. I feel like it builds the anticipation a little bit. Like what's gonna happen, but it's still a cool moment because the fans feel like they're involved in it in the moment. So I like it.
So one thing that was a little unexpected was the fact that she got physical on night number 1, right? She shows up in the main event with Rio and Willow Nightingale. And let me tell you about either of those competitors. I'm not really sold on either of those women's competitors. And I think a lot of people in the wrestling world aren't.
No, what's funny though, and we've talked about this like off the not off the record, but like just kind of like personal texting and whatnot. I don't like that's the AEW women's division is as a whole is not that great. I don't think, and I'm not dissing on the women's evolution and all that. It's just to me, I think even NXT's women's division is better than AEW's. They have some names, sure. Like Timeless Tony Storm is great. I obviously Sasha Banks, now Mercedes Mone. I'm going to probably keep messing that up for the next 6 months, but she's also there. They got Statlander, Chris Statlander there. She's great. Like they and even Julia Hart, they've built Julia Hart pretty well as well. So like they have some pieces, but I think as a whole, I feel like they think that their women's division is better than what it is. I never bought into the Rio hype. I don't buy into the Willow Nightingale hype. I don't see it. I do know some wrestling fans that really are high on Willow Nightingale, and because they were hyping it up because she beat Sasha Banks, in Japan. I haven't seen enough of it from her that I can say, okay, she's a bona fide star, and that goes for Rio, and it's not anything negative. It's just my observation.
Did you like her getting physical and showing back up on night number 1, or did she just need to do her intro at the beginning of the show and then take off?
I like the physicality. I think it's cool because a lot of times you get these debuts where it's like, okay, hey, it's almost like they wave to the fans, and that's about it. I like the fact that she got involved in a storyline right away. I think that's cool. I think AEW so far, I know it's just one appearance, one show, But so far, one of one, I think they're doing a pretty good job in Mercedes Mone. And I will say it's because of her relationship with one of the former WWE writers that is now that's on the staff. I think Jen, I believe her name is. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. But we talked about her, a few weeks back. She's a really good writer, but she also has very good ties with Sasha Banks and in Mercedes Mone. And I think Tony Khan, I'm gonna guess he's giving her full reign to do whatever she wants to do with the women's revolution in AEW.
I will say, you're having trouble with that, but I will say, because it's almost been 2 years now, and I'm going to give her some credit in the sense of I'm actually, right when it happened, of course, I was going to call her Sasha Banks, right? But, the Mercedes Mone thing, it seems like it's kind of, hanging on me where it's not that difficult. I mean, maybe because we saw her do a little bit of New Japan and stuff like that. And obviously she's been around in the last 2 years. May will be 2 years since she's been in WWE. And I just feel like, there's a few people out there who somehow find ways to make a name for themselves outside of WWE and get that secondary name. Right. Right now, I'm still, feeling it out with Adam Copeland, Edge. But, I don't think it's going to be that long, before we're looking at them in these other names.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. And I want to make sure I get it all right here. I know I mentioned Jen. So Jen Pepperman. I couldn't think of her last name for a second. I was like, I got to pull it up. I got to remember it. So it's Jen Pepperman. And I remember her in WWE. Like I just know she's very well respected in the business. And I know Eric Bischoff talked highly about her when the move happened. So you mentioned the Adam Copelands, the formerly Edge of WWEs of the world. I think people like that, who I feel like have been stale. I feel like a lot of wrestlers like in that era, like in that area, I guess, are going to be happy that Jen Pepperman is in AEW because I think she's going to take a more hands-on approach to the AEW locker room and the storylines and building these things up because I feel like Tony Khan needs to get out of his own way. Be the billionaire, let people that know the business do the business. So I feel like a Jen Pepperman, I think she's going to come in. She's going to do a hell of a job. She's obviously got the relationship with a lot of these WWE, former WWE wrestlers that are now in AEW. So I feel like she's going to do a hell of a job. Everything that I've ever heard and read about her, she's stand up. She's great. She's not afraid to have those tough conversations and she's looking to do good for the business. So I'm looking forward to what she does with the Adam Copelands of the world.
Indeed. And I don't think I'm going to have too much trouble with Mercedes Mone, calling her that. I mean, I know you want to revert back to Sasha Banks and stuff, but, I have to say, like I said, it's been a little bit now, and she's kind of that character where she was in WWE for a long time, but kind of always had that, as we've seen before, that kind of side to her where she never really wanted to be, like she wanted to be kind of independent. She wanted to be, that's why she left WWE. She wasn't one of those like hometown girls who got, cut and said, this thing. She was one of those ones who kind of went out on her own, kind of a rebel in that sense. So calling her Mercedes Mone, I don't know if it's going to be that difficult, because it's been a little bit now, and maybe, who knows, maybe she'll make more of a name for herself. It's like we talked about, with Sting and the fact that he spent more time in TNA Impact than he did in WCW, right? We were so synonymous.
How crazy
with
is
WCW.
that, by the way? How crazy is that? That's insane, by the way. When you say it like that and you bring up the fact, it's insane because we all know him from obviously, us especially because we grew up during the time of especially the WCW version of Sting. I know people that
spent more time in TNA Impact than he did in the WWE. I mean,
it's insane. It's insane. Yeah. And
the
what?
older we get, the years fly by. Yes.
And that's the thing. I know we're going to get to a fun topic a little bit later. And it was Sting was in consideration for a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about in the next coming weeks because we got a lot of fun stuff coming out with the WrestleMania season here, and we're 4 weeks out, so we're going to have a lot of fun with it. And it was hard for me to.
You got to tell me, but you were just saying Sting's in consideration. He's been in one WrestleMania match, so if you're talking about alluding to, we're going to talk about WrestleMania. I was like, what do you? We're not talking about the best Starrcade ever here. We're not talking about your favorite Clash of the Champions matches.
Just his. I mean, I know he wasn't at that point when he was in WWE. He wasn't at the point where he was putting on the favorite dirt sheet writers like 8-star, million-star matches, whatever the hell you want to call them. But I just just having Sting in the moment of having Sting in WWE when he was never there, like I had to think about it, even though his run was what it was. It's Sting. He's so iconic.
He's got one match. So if you're thinking about what your favorite Sting match is in WrestleMania history, there's one.
But just moments, though, not just matches, but moments. Like there was the moment.
One moment in WrestleMania history, and then what? Also, he got inducted the following year. I mean,
yeah, like it was cool because he was the guy who never was in WWE, but he's still in the Hall of Fame. Like I mean, let alone besides that small story, he got to the Hall of Fame. So it's
based on his WCW time, yes.
Yeah. 100%.
But, I will say I'm looking forward to AEW next week. They're in Toronto, Ontario at the Coca-Cola Coliseum, and they're going to keep the ball rolling, right? We had Mercedes Mone this week. We had Will Ospreay essentially debut sort of at the pay-per-view. We knew he was there. We had Okada last week. And then coming up, we got Edge, Adam Copeland, right, versus Christian again in their hometowns. At the Coca-Cola Coliseum for AEW Dynamite. So that should be pretty exciting. So AEW keeping things going, and we got their next pay-per-view. No, we don't have to wait till May. AEW Dynasty, right, in about a month time. Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson. So AEW continuing while, attendance can be whatever it is, but the actual product, they're definitely hitting their stride right now when it comes to the product, which is exciting too because it's WrestleMania season. So AEW is definitely keeping our eyes on it, which is more than they've done in the past.